Hello everyone, I'm Ihsan. In this video, we'll compare the best smartphones so far in 2022. They are iPhone 14 Pro Max and the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. After using these two smartphones directly, there are some interesting things that I found in these two smartphones. Some of these things might help you to choose which one is the best option. Okay, now let's just compare these two smartphones side by side. The first thing that we will compare is the camera of these two smartphones. For the photos taken with the rear camera on both smartphones has been able to provide very good results on both of them. When we try to compare photos with the rear camera at the same place and at the same time, the photos look equally good in various conditions. Sometimes there is a photo that looks better on iPhone and sometimes there are also better photos on S22 Ultra. However, the result is different from the photos taken with the front camera. The front camera quality looks much better on the S22 Ultra front camera, which comes with a front camera that has 40 megapixel resolution. And when compared to the front camera of the iPhone 14 Pro Max that comes with 12 megapixel resolution, the photos from the front camera look better from the S22 Ultra. Then the video quality with the rear camera is slightly better on the iPhone 14 Pro Max as compared to the Samsung S22 Ultra. When recording a video and changing the camera from the main camera to the telephoto camera, the transition looks smoother on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Apart from that, there are also some better video features on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. For example is the action mode feature, which can instantly record very stable videos even when the phone is shaking. Previously on the S22 Ultra, there was actually a similar feature called Super Steady. However, when comparing the video results, it looks better with action mode on iPhone 14 Pro Max than Super Steady on S22 Ultra. Then for cinematic mode, it also supports 4K 30fps resolution on iPhone 14 Pro Max. Whereas on the S22 Ultra, the portrait video mode only supports Full HD 30fps. However, the iPhone 14 Pro Max camera doesn't have 10x optical zoom telephoto lens like on the S22 Ultra. The telephoto lens on the S22 Ultra can be very useful in a number of situations, such as when recording live video from far away, or the most useful and frequently used is for taking photo with text from afar. The text that is so far away and cannot be read directly with naked eye can be easily captured by the S22 Ultra with this 10x telephoto lens. Then for the sound quality of the speakers, when we try to compare it in blind test without looking at the smartphone first, it turns out that the speaker sounds better on the iPhone 14 Pro Max than S22 Ultra. After hearing the speaker sound from both of them in blind test several times, we can immediately guess which sound is coming from the iPhone speaker even with eyes closed. The sound of the iPhone 14 Pro Max speakers sound much louder and also with the better bass sound. The treble is also pretty balanced and not too dominant. While the sound of the S22 Ultra speaker is still not well separated at some frequencies, and the treble sound from the bottom speaker also sounds a little more dominant. Next, in terms of design, these two smartphones already have their own design characteristics. For the character of the rear camera design, of course it is much stronger on the iPhone because it has used the same design for the past few years, starting from the iPhone 11 Pro Max to this iPhone 14 Pro Max. While the S22 Ultra seems to be still trying to find a rear camera design that is suitable in several previous series. And finally, in this series, it looks like Samsung has taken a minimal design approach by removing the outer frame on the rear camera module, and now it only remains with the frame on its lens only. Then if we compare the bezels, for the bezels on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, if we compare directly side by side with the S22 Ultra, the bezel still looks a bit thicker on the iPhone than the bezel on the S22 Ultra. The bezel on the S22 Ultra is already very thin and the punch hole on the front camera is also already pretty small. While on the iPhone, although this time it comes with the latest front camera design, however the size is still very large as compared to the front camera on the S22 Ultra. Then the display both already comes with the best display available. iPhone already comes with 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR display with 120Hz refresh rate, and the Samsung also comes with a dynamic AMOLED 2X screen which comes with 120Hz refresh rate. Then for screen protection, they also comes with the best protection so far. The iPhone comes with Ceramic Shield Glass protection and S22 Ultra comes with Gorilla Glass Victus Plus. And for the screen brightness, it looks much brighter on the iPhone 14 Pro Max than S22 Ultra display. Actually, the S22 Ultra display also already comes with a pretty bright display. But if we compare it with the brightness of the iPhone 14 Pro Max screen when using the smartphone outdoors or below the sunlight directly, the screen brightness will immediately feel different and much brighter on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. For the screen ratio here, the iPhone used a 19.5:9 ratio with high resolution display. On the screen, it also comes with a new front camera design called Dynamic Island. Even though Dynamic Island can be used for a variety of interesting features, however, if you watch videos with ultra-wide ratios such as 2:1 or 21:9, the Dynamic Island on the iPhone 14 Pro Max actually feels a little bit annoying when watching movies. Especially if you watch the latest movies that are available with ultra-wide 21:9 ratios. The display when watching movies on the iPhone 14 Pro Max looks cut off on many parts of the screen, even after we zoom in. Meanwhile, on the S22 Ultra, it is very comfortable to watch movies with ultra-wide resolution. Even on the default display, it already looks pretty good without having to zoom in on the screen. But if you want a full screen view, you can also zoom in a little so that the experience when watching movies can feel much better on the Samsung S22 Ultra. However, when watching movies on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, if the ratio of the film or the video is still standard, which is 16:9 ratio, the appearance still looks normal without any parts being covered with Dynamic Island. The viewing experience is still relatively comfortable in this 16:9 ratio, both in standard and full screen display. Then here for performance, with the powerful Apple A16 Bionic chipset on the iPhone and Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 on the S22 Ultra. Of course, for everyday use, it already feels very smooth and fast for various needs. And if you want to know which one performs better, here when we test the performance on Antutu and Geekbench 5, both of them consistently give much higher points for the iPhone 14 Pro Max, so it can be concluded that the performance is better on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Then for the battery capacity, the S22 Ultra is much larger, 5000 mAh, while the iPhone 14 Pro Max battery is only 4323 mAh. Even though the capacity looks different, in daily use, the battery feels equally durable on these two smartphones. However, the charging speed here is slightly faster on the S22 Ultra because it already supports charging up to the maximum of 45W fast charging, while on the iPhone only support up to 20W. Then for the dust and water resistant features on these two smartphones, both of them already comes with IP68 rating. However, iPhone claims it can survive at a maximum depth of 6 meters for 30 minutes, while the S22 Ultra can only survive up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. For the advantage of the S22 Ultra, which is very exclusive, is the S Pen feature. You can use this S Pen feature right away to immediately scribble or write notes on Notepad, and you can also directly control the camera from afar. And for the iPhone 14 Pro Max, there is also an exclusive feature, which is Dynamic Island. It comes with very fluid animations and can also be used to display now playing music status, timer, and can also be used to show live score of sport matches. Then for the operating system used on the iPhone is iOS 16, while on the Samsung used One UI 5.0 based on Android 13. Both of them already comes with a UI that is very smooth to use with many new interesting features. And in the latest version, there are several features that looks pretty similar between iOS 16 on iPhone 14 Pro Max and One UI 5 on Samsung S22 Ultra. To check what are the similar features on iPhone 14 Pro Max and S22 Ultra, you can tap on the video that appears on your screen. Hopefully useful. See you in the next video.